My childhood best friend called me out of nowhere after 15 years. We reconnected immediately, talking twice a week like no time had passed. Then one night, she told me about a patient at the hospital where she worked. A man who watched the staff too carefully. Asked where they lived, whether they had family nearby. She said he had been discharged, that it was over. 3 days later, she collapsed at home. No warning, no explanation the doctors could find. When I flew to Portland to see her, I found a note on her phone, typed the night before she collapsed. The last line said this: "I don't think he needs to be alone with you. I've been trying to understand what that means ever since. And I've started to wonder if knowing what she told me puts me next on whatever list he keeps." This is what she told me, and what happened after. Lily Chen and I were best friends from age 6 to age 14. The kind of best friends that don't need to explain themselves to each other. We lived 3 houses apart on the same street, in a small town in Connecticut. Walked to school together every morning for 8 years. Spent summers in each other's backyards. Knew each other's families better than some of our own relatives. Then her family moved to Oregon when we were 14. Her father had gotten a job transfer. It was sudden, 6 weeks from announcement to moving truck. We cried the day she left. Made the kind of promises 14-year-olds make, that we would call every week, write letters, visit during summer. We kept those promises for about a year. Then the calls got less frequent. The letters stopped. Life moved in different directions the way it does. I hadn't spoken to Lily in 15 years when she called me. I'm 29 now. My name is Claire. I live in Boston where I work as a paralegal. When my phone rang on a Thursday night in November and I saw a number I didn't recognize with an Oregon area code, I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Her voice was the same. Older, obviously, but the same quality to it. The same rhythm I had known as a child. She said, "Hi, Claire. It's Lily." We talked for almost 2 hours that first night. The easy kind of conversation that happens when you reconnect with someone you were genuinely close to. Catching up on 15 years in broad strokes. Jobs, relationships, where life had taken us. She seemed good, happy even, married to a man named David Park, working as a nurse at a hospital in Portland, 2 cats, a house with a garden she was learning to maintain. We made plans to catch up properly. A video call the following weekend. That call lasted 4 hours. And by the end of it, we had fallen back into the old rhythm completely. Like the 15 years had been a brief interruption rather than half our lives. We started talking every week after that. Sometimes twice a week. About a month into our rekindled friendship, she started telling me about something that had been bothering her. Something at work. She said there was a patient at the hospital, an older man. She didn't give me his name. Said he had been admitted for something routine. Nothing serious. But something about him unsettled her. She couldn't articulate it precisely at first. Just a feeling. The kind nurses develop over years of being around sick people. An instinct about when something is wrong beyond the medical chart. She said he watched the staff too carefully. Not the anxious watching of someone scared about their health. Something more deliberate. Evaluating. Like he was studying them. She said he asked unusual questions. Not about his treatment. About the staff. How long they had worked there. Where they lived. Whether they had family nearby. She had mentioned it to her colleague Janet Reeves. 10 years experience. Unflappable in the way long-term nurses become. Janet had listened and then said something simple. Just don't be alone with him. I asked Lily why she was telling me this. What it had to do with anything. She was quiet for a moment, then said she wasn't sure. Said she just needed to tell someone outside the hospital. Someone she trusted. She said the man had been discharged 3 days ago. So it was over. He was gone. She just hadn't been able to stop thinking about it. I told her it sounded like he was just an unusual person. that hospitals attracted difficult patients sometimes, that her instincts were probably good, but that she should try to let it go now that he had left. She said yes. Probably. Said she would try. We changed the subject. Talked about other things. Ended the call the way we always did, promising to talk again that weekend. She didn't call that weekend. I texted her on Sunday. No response. Monday. Nothing. Tuesday I called. It went straight to voicemail. I told myself she was just busy, that life gets in the way, that it didn't mean anything. On Wednesday, her husband David called me. I didn't know him well. We had spoken briefly a few times when he had been in the background of our calls. A quiet man from what I could tell. Careful with his words. He said Lily was in the hospital, not the one she worked at. A different one. He said she had collapsed at home on Saturday evening. No warning. No prior symptoms. She had been sitting at the kitchen table, and then she wasn't. He said the doctors were running tests, that they didn't have answers yet, that she was stable but not responsive. I asked if I could come. He said yes. Said he thought she would want me there. I drove to Portland that Thursday. She was in a private room, tubes and monitors, her eyes closed, her face completely still, in a way that didn't look like sleep. David met me in the corridor outside her room. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in 5 days. Because he was. We sat in the family waiting area, and he told me what he hadn't said on the phone. He said the night before she collapsed, Friday night, she had been agitated, pacing, jumping at sounds. He had asked her what was wrong. She had said she thought someone had been outside the house, in the garden, standing near the back fence. She had seen a shape from the bedroom window. David had gone outside to look, found nothing, came back in and told her it was probably a neighbor's dog. She had seemed to accept that. They had gone to bed. In the morning she was fine, normal. They had breakfast together. She had laughed at something on the radio. Saturday evening she collapsed. David looked at his hands, then said he had found something on her phone, a note she had typed the Thursday before she collapsed, the day after our last call. He held his phone out to me. The note said this: the man from the hospital came to the house last night. I recognize him from the garden. I don't know how he found out where I live. I haven't told anyone except Claire. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to tell. Janet said don't be alone with him. I think the problem is he doesn't need to be alone with you. I read that note 3 times. Then I handed David's phone back to him. We sat in silence for a moment. I asked him if he had gone to the police. He said yes, the day after she collapsed. Told him about the man from the hospital, about the note on her phone. The police had contacted the hospital. The hospital had confirmed the patient had been discharged, given them his details. The police had gone to the address on file. Vacant lot. The name on the admission paperwork traced to a man who had died in 2019. David looked at the floor when he told me that. Said the detective he had spoken had been kind, but clearly didn't know what to make of it. Said they were still looking into it. Said these things took time. I stayed in Portland for 4 days. Visited Lily every morning. Sat with her. Talked to her the way people do when they don't know if the person can hear them, but can't bear the silence. Told her about things from when we were kids. The summer we had tried to build a raft in her backyard. The time we had gotten lost on a hiking trail, and her mother had cried when we finally appeared at the trailhead. Small things. Safe things. On my 3rd day there, I ran into Janet Reeves in the hospital corridor. She had come to visit Lily on her lunch break. We introduce ourselves in the way people do when they are connected to the same person. We got coffee from a machine in the waiting room. Sat across from each other at a small table. I asked her about the patient, the one Lily had told me about, the man who had watched the staff. Janet wrapped both hands around her coffee cup, stared at the surface of it for a moment, Then she said she had worked in that hospital for 10 years. In those 10 years, she had seen things that had made her uncomfortable. Patients who were difficult. Situations that were sad or strange or frightening in ordinary ways. She said this man was different. She said when he looked at you, it didn't feel like being looked at. It felt like being read. Like something going through you, very carefully looking for a specific thing. I asked her what she thought he was looking for. She said she didn't know, but that she had noticed something in his final 2 days before discharge. He had stopped watching everyone equally. He had started focusing specifically on Lily. I asked her why she thought that was. She said she had thought about it a lot since Lily collapsed. And the only thing she could identify that made Lily different from the other staff was one thing. Lily had talked to him. Not much. Not in a way that went beyond professional courtesy. But once during a night shift, she had sat with him for a few minutes. He had seemed agitated. She had talked him through it the way good nurses do. Calm voice. Steady presence. Janet said after that he had watched Lily specifically. Every shift she worked, from admission to discharge. She looked at me over her coffee. Said she thought Lily had made the mistake of letting him hear her voice properly. In a quiet room, up close. Said she thought that was what he had been waiting for. I drove back to Boston 2 days later. Lily woke up 3 weeks after I left Portland. David called me immediately. I cried for about 20 minutes after I hung up. She was confused at first, disoriented, no memory of the 4 days before she collapsed. She has been recovering slowly since then. She is home now. She sounds like herself when we talk. But she asked me something on our first call after she came home. She asked me what I had told David about the man from the hospital, how much detail I had given him. I told her I had just told him what she had told me. Nothing more. She went quiet. Then she said that was good. Said the less people who knew the details, the better. Said she had spoken to Janet about it. Janet had said the same thing. I asked her why. She said because Janet had told her something after she woke up. Something Janet had been sitting on since the day of the discharge, the day the man left the hospital. The last thing he had said to Janet at the nurse's station. Quietly, almost casually, like a passing remark. He had said, "Tell your friend with the voice, she shouldn't have let anyone else hear about me." Then he had walked out. Lily said she was fine, that she was safe, that she just wanted to move on from it. But she hasn't called me since that conversation. It's been 3 weeks, and I've started to wonder whether she stopped calling because she is truly fine and trying to put behind her, or whether she stopped calling because she is trying to keep me out of his reach by keeping her distance from me.